I know it was a lot of rumors about the next level, and I can't see that. Yeah. I can't see the next level. And I think a couple of people who may have taken shots at my kids, they were afraid that I would go to that next level. And that's where the shots came from. All you got to do is just sit back and listen. And watch.
That's all you got to do.
But people don't want to do that. They want to create these narratives and create these stories and then attach them to a kid that ain't never done nothing wrong.
Yeah. How does that make you feel when you see your colleagues or your peers going in on you, man? Like, how does that make you feel?
No idea, man. You have no idea. Like,
because I don't think people be understanding, like I got kids too. These are our kids. These are our kids.
Blood,
we're
man.
coaches, but these are kids. This is our blood.
And stop lying. Like, you got to understand, my kids are built for everything. We had 2 TV shows. Then we had shows in high school with playing football in junior and senior year. So we've always been in front of the camera, so they know how to navigate. They know how to handle themselves. Yeah. And you're not going to catch them in no foolery and no mess. You're not going to do that whatsoever. So when you sit up there and say something like, he went in a meeting unprepared, like, dude, Shedeur Sanders, who's had 6 different coordinators, who has still functioned and went up, leveled up every time we brought somebody new in, and you're gonna tell me you're gonna tell me he had on headphones. Shedeur, anybody know my son, understand he's a professional. Like, he's gonna go into a meeting with headphones on. Like, y'all come on, man.
You know what that tells me, Coach? That tells me somebody was looking for something before they even came there. I was already looking for something.
Yeah,
looking for an issue, pre-planned. You know what I mean? But hey, bygones, bygones. Hey, man, we know you a dog. Your kid's a dog, and dogs gonna always rise to the top. You know what I mean? That's what I believe. You know what I mean?
There you go.
For real. But,
yeah, but then we talking about it did hurt.
Man, Coach, you talking about it hurt? It hurt us. It hurt me. It hurt, Coach.
But you know, the Bible says God uses the foolish things to confound the wise. So it was some foolish stuff that went on, but you know what? That gave them something that they needed. Like, that gave them something that they said, all right, you know, that edge that Tom had, like that edge, it gave them that edge that you had, it gave them the edge that I have. You know, when folks were there to say we're gonna be nothing, we weren't gonna be nothing, but we had to prove that. That gave them the edge that they needed. Both of them.
Mm-hmm. He already used to adversity, like I say, come from Jackson State and Colorado, so he built for that.
Let's go a little deeper here. You guys are champions. You guys both played in the National Football League. Let's get personal. You know Deion Sanders enough. Has anybody ever been in a position to say that Deion Sanders was a liar? Ever? We've all talked about him for years. Have you run across anybody that said Deion Sanders said one thing to your face and said something else behind your back? That's not who that man is. And so when he comes out and he says something about his son, there is no question he has spoken to his son. There is no question that Deion Sanders prepped his son for those interviews. There is no question. I mean, the brother threw for over 4,000 yards, 37 touchdowns, 10 interceptions, okay? Completing 74% of his passes, so we knew he could play. 5 quarterbacks were taken ahead of him. We entered after the season was over, and I know there's a window where you get to evaluate these guys once the NFL season is over, and you can lock in and zero in and stuff like that. Even though with a multi-billion-dollar establishment, it's hard for me to imagine that you can't have guys that are specifically designated to do evaluation while the rest of the team is preparing, you know, for the playoffs and beyond, stuff like that. But that's neither here nor there. Cam Ward, Jackson Dart, Tyler Shaw, Jalen Milroe, Dylan Gabriel, all picked before Shedeur Sanders. He was projected to be a first-round pick. He was drafted 144th overall in the 5th round. 5 quarterbacks were taken ahead of him. We all know this was about Deion. Now we have to get to what the real crux of the situation is. Deion, as I told y'all, was devastated. When I came on the airwaves and talked about how devastating he was, and Molly knows this, I had not spoken to him at the time. Mm-hmm. I've spoken to him since because he called me to thank me for being accurate on what I was saying about the level of devastation that he had felt. because it was a painstakingly thing for him to endure. To watch his son plummet, knowing it wasn't because of his ability. If my son comes on this particular team, if this team drafts him, we might have to deal with Deion. Because if Deion ain't satisfied with how we're doing, who knows? Oh, by the way, Deion is showing himself to be a hell of a coach on a collegiate level. What if people start clamoring for him to be the head coach because we ain't doing what they think we should do now that we got his son here on this franchise? You had all of that stuff. I know of owners who went to their personnel in the draft room. You're not drafting him. That's what I was told. And I've been a reporter for 30 years. That's what I was told. So I'm looking at all of these things and I'm saying to myself, of course I believe Deion. Is there culpability on the part of Deion Sanders? Yes. Because you don't go on national television and tell the world your son's going to listen to you. By the way, you know what? I don't give a damn what the NFL team, if it ain't the right situation, we ain't going to go for it. Because those kind of things can come back to haunt you. And I think that if Deion had an opportunity upon reflection, he would do things a little differently himself in terms of how outspoken he was leading into the draft. And Shedeur Sanders obviously said himself there may have been things he would have done differently. But that does not mean that Deion is not telling the truth when he says there's no way in hell my son walked into an interview like that.
Here's the silver lining. The story's not over. Just look at Tom Brady. Sometimes that chip on your shoulder fuels greatness. It's still not fair, but it might be the start of something bigger. Let's be clear. Shedeur Sanders is the real deal. The numbers are there, the mindset is there, and you better believe the league is watching. It's bigger than football with Shedeur. He's got the talent, but he's also shifting the culture. He knows who he is, and that confidence is contagious.
I believe that fear is the biggest obstacle to achieving goals and gaining power. Whether it's fear of what others think, fear of loss, or fear of the future, overcoming fear is crucial. Get rich or die trying wasn't just a slogan. It was how I lived. I made up my mind that failure wasn't an option, no matter what it cost me. Sleep is for people who are broke. I've got dreams to chase and money to make. Time is the only thing you can't get back. Waste it and you lose everything. People love you when you're up, but they disappear when you're down. I learned to be my own motivation, my own support, and my own boss. Success isn't luck. It's obsession, discipline, and sacrifice. I outworked people who had more than me because I wanted it more. You can learn from anyone, even your enemies. I watched how people moved, used it to my advantage, and turned hate into fuel. Everybody's got ideas, but only a few have the courage to act. I didn't wait for permission. I moved, even when I was scared.